Calling our board meeting to order. 1 second. Okay. Roll call, Ms. Cindy.
Ms. Richards,
Present.
Mr. Toller,
Here.
Ms. Abrams,
Here.
Mr. Westmoreland,
Present.
Mr. Duncan,
Here.
Mr. Anthony,
Here.
Mr. Moore,
Here.
Mr. Piazza,
Here.
Ms. Dominguez.
Present. Okay, thank you. Now we will have the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll ask Mr. Moore to lead us.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now, item C, would like to consider approval of board minutes of August 1st.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Toller and Trent, was it? Okay. Okay, got it.
Voting is open.
See yes.
Yes.
Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Awards and recognition. Recognize the very special Miss Louisiana Queen, Miss Robin Abrams.
Miss Robin Abrams is not the very special. I think the way you worded that was incorrect. Yeah.
I am the queen, yes. Well, my girls would think I was. But, so everyone knows that I work for TARC, and for a fundraiser for TARC, we do the very special Miss Louisiana pageant. And guys, I can tell you, this is one of the most rewarding things I've ever done and to be involved with is the very special Miss Louisiana pageant. This is a state title that we've registered with the Secretary of State, and girls come from across the state to compete in this title that have disabilities, but we don't concentrate on their disability. We concentrate on their ability to be all they can be. So this year at our pageant, 5 of the 12 queens are from Tpss Parish.
Wow.
So it is an honor to have the 5 of them with us today. So I'm going to call each one up and introduce you to each one of them. Our first is Miss Leah Petho. She attends Independence High Magnet School, where she's in the 11th grade. We have Miss Emery Cardona, where she's going to start her pre-K at Hammond Eastside this week. Miss Juliana Prescott, who attends Chesbro Elementary, and I think she has a fan on our board, Mr. Tom Toller.
She does.
She's in the 3rd grade. Miss London Smith could not be with us. She's homebound, but she attends through Martha Vineyard School. Her and her sister are both sick at the moment. And then we also have a graduate from our Tpss Parish School System, Miss Jennifer Renee Wells. She's a 2010 graduate of Ponchatoula High School. I'm going to let Miss Jennifer just say a few words. We're not going to keep us long, are we, Miss Jen? And she's going to tell you what this pageant means to all of these ladies. We have, like I said, 12 queens. Our ambassador is from Lafayette, but we're going to let Miss Jennifer tell you all what it means to be the very special Miss Louisiana.
Well, well, at Rotary the other day, it made me feel like I was more. I'm trying to cry. It made me feel more special because not only did I want to do this, but I really chose to do it because it made me feel like I could accomplish myself amongst others with the same personality as me. And it made me feel like that I was the most, shoot. Yeah, but it made me gain myself confidence in this because I chose not only to do it for myself, but I chose to do it for my family.
And with her saying that, I'm going to leave you with one thing. The very first year that we had very special Miss Louisiana, there was a dad that sat in the front aisle, and all of you dads up there that have daughters can appreciate this. He sat there and he cried and he told me, he said, I may not see my daughter go to prom, and I may not walk her down the aisle, but you made her special today. So just remember that when you think it's hard getting up in the morning and dressing your child and it's just chaotic, just think what parents with special need children have to go through. And we thank you for letting us be here today, and we're so proud of them.
By the way, I actually got to watch Miss Shelby walk across the aisle in 2010. She was ahead of me. So I want to tell you real quick how proud I am of you and your journey so far. It's good to see a Punchbowl alumni go far. Thank you, Shelby. Congratulations again. I mean, Jennifer, sorry. I'm sitting there going, Jennifer, thank you. No problem.
That was special. Okay. Now, we will have our academic update on the 2023 state test results. Dr. Lisa Fasel.
For future reference, no one wants to follow that cuteness, okay? So I think we should just end at that point with that group. This is a very quick overview, and there's more data that's still being released and analyzed in the states. We're waiting on a couple of things. The state drops in what we call our FTP that gives us a little bit more specific information. But I wanted to share with you tonight what the state recently released, and that was around, we had our student results come in. So our schools frantically started taking our LEAP 2025 data from the spring and plugging it in to calculators and looking at their individual school results. But that's not what we call clean data when they put it in the calculator, because we still have accountability things that have to be cleaned up by LDOE. But what we do have are some of our statistics from the State Department where they're looking at just our proficiency. So what we're sharing tonight is just our advanced and mastery data. This is not where every student moved in the school system, but just some overall highlights. 9 of our schools, we saw improvement in mastery overall. So that's all the subjects together, whether it's 3 to 8, ELA, math, science, social studies, and all of our high school subjects combined. 4 in ELA, just ELA, 15 math, 15 science, 12 in social studies. So that's just in advanced and mastery, students moving in those levels, which is our goal. Our goal is overall proficiency, which is advanced and mastery, but what our SPS scores are based on is where we move students towards even basic advanced and mastery. So that doesn't include that data, which comes out usually in November. I do want to share a few other things that I think are just important data points for you to know. There's a state law that requires all of our K-3 principals and school teachers to go through the science of reading. So what we get in this academic and recovery and acceleration plan data that hasn't come out yet for 2023, but what we get is an update on that. And what we should see when ours comes out is that 88% of our K-3 leaders have completed their training. We have 1 new K-3 principal and 1 experienced principal that has to complete that. And 80% of our teachers have completed that training. We have another cohort that's starting up now that will round us out for that. Of course, it's ongoing. Anytime we have new teachers or new principals, we'll have them go through that. We did see an increase in our K students performing on or above grade level. That's one of our district goals, from 44% to 47%, which put us back pre-pandemic. We were 47% in 2019, and we're back to that level. Of course, it's different groups of students, but we still try to aim to stay in that range and, of course, improve. Our high school numbers, we have 3% in English 2 increase in proficiency. In Algebra 1 and Biology, you see 2% and 1%. But again, that's just proficiency for our high school subjects. Last year, we did meet pre-pandemic numbers in a couple of our high school areas, which we are really excited about. I also want to share 3 more of our district goals specifically. We have that students will achieve mastery level in 3rd grade assessments. Some of our highlights are that we do see an increase in 3rd grade math by 2%, and we maintained at ELA and social studies. Again, it's not the same set of students, so it's like apples and oranges, but we are at least trying to see if we are maintaining or improving so that we can look at those best practices and make sure we're applying them, especially where we see them working, that we multiply those across the district. Students will achieve mastery in 8th grade. We see that math and science increased by 2%, social studies by 1. Social studies is a big deal for us. Social studies has been an area that the state has struggled in general, so we're happy to see growth in that area. Of course, there's new state standards, so this year we'll have our science will be doubled, and we actually won't have a social studies score because we'll be going through a pilot year. In one of our goals of students with disabilities and our students of color attaining mastery, we see some progress in our 3rd grade, 1% mastery in ELA and math, third grade for students with disabilities, we see a 4% increase. Last year, we saw decreases in those areas, so we're excited to see some movement there. We're actually doing some restructuring in our best practices around our students with disabilities. And our 8th grade math, we see a small increase for our African American students in 8th grade math. So what I want you to know are some of the next steps that we're doing. So number one, this is a hyperlink. So I'll ask Miss Cindy to make sure we share this with you. That academic recovery and acceleration plan. And you can click it. It's just so that we can see. This is a plan we do every year. It's required for our ESSER funding. So what we're doing now is updating this. It's due September 1st with our data and what our plan is. And if you'll go back, Miss Cindy, this will be where they can scroll through. This is required, but our continued focus is really around our K-3 and ELA and math. Of course, all of our grade levels, but some of our new initiatives this year is really, we're trying to just stay, like we have Tier 1 curriculum. Our goal is to continue to implement that with fidelity, support our teachers. We're not trying to add a bunch of new things for teachers to do. We see steady progress. It may not be the huge gains we want to see every year, but slow and steady. I'll take that without adding a bunch of things for our teachers just to see if we get a big jump somewhere. One of the things we really are doing this year that's new, and it's really not for the teachers as much as it's for our administrators, is we have what's called our literacy labs, which are going to be data digs where our principals and our literacy coaches come in and look at the real-time data of the students on those screeners. And then like we're doing literacy walkthroughs. So our academic team, they're starting and they have scheduled walkthroughs in our K-3 schools to make sure that the support that's needed is there. So it's not a new initiative as much as it's about new support. The other thing, again, is just keeping our Tier 1 implementation, not adding anything, just maintaining. What we are increasing is the support of our curriculum specialists. We have them coming in for PLCs every month. They go into the classroom to support the teachers. Our academic team makes sure that the principals are using our curriculum specialists to support teachers and not for administrative duties, because that's where they're needed. And the other thing is continue to strengthen our use of data. So we have benchmark tests. One of the things that Ms. Jackson and I are working with our Title I plans and Ms. Lanier around is our teachers are busy during the day. They have collaboration, they're teaching. When they go home, we don't want them trying to analyze data and make individual plans. So we want to use our Title I funds to have a day every 9 weeks where especially our English and math teachers can look at the student data, make plans. It's not taking away from their time that they're collaborating or planning, but additional time that we already have funding for built into for them to really look at the individual student and what do they need. And these are the things that we have. These are things we've been purchasing with ESSER funds. We have M-Class when a student's struggling. We have one-to-one devices so that the students can work in an M-Class during their time during the day or even at home. We have Zern. Zern is something the state is assisting districts with purchasing and utilizing. We see a lot of growth, and 15 schools growing in math. We think a lot of that is around our intervention work with Zern, because we really took time to say, hey, we want face-to-face interventions, but when the one-to-one devices came into play, there's kids who work on Zern when they're home in the evening. They're doing those tasks which strengthen their mathematical abilities. We purchased already last year. It was the first year we had it for ELA. We're really watching to see how that supports us in the upcoming year because we've only had 1 year with it. Equip is another thing that's tied to our Tier 1 curriculum. Most importantly, we have time built into the day for one-on-one with the teachers, but also the programs that they can use even after hours. And so this is just proficiency. What we'll be looking at, and our principals are turning into their supervisors for their beginning of the year meetings, is how do we move students? The individual students who might have been unsat, did we move them? Did they move from unsat to approaching or to basic? We want everybody to be proficient, but we also want to make sure our students are growing. So that's some of the data that just to highlight if you have any questions around, and we'll continue to share with you when the academic recovery data comes out and we finish that plan. I'll also share that with you. And then when, of course, when our SPS data comes out. So any questions or comments around this?
One question, Ms. Fussell.
Yes.
Thank you for that. I know when we first started implementing that Tier 1 curriculum, there was a little bit of a delay in getting some of the kits that go along with those curriculums, but then when I was walking around the schools this week, it looks like we have all of those kits in, right? I mean, so all of our teachers have all of those materials, all of the science kits that go with each of their lessons and all of that. We're good on all of that now?
We are a well-oiled ordering machine for the Tier 1 curriculum. The only snafu I personally heard of was our CKLA unit materials. When they were delivered to us, they weren't separated by school. So they had to roll up their sleeves last week, the academic team, and get out there and sort by school to have those delivered. Normally they go in by school and it's really seamless, but yes, sir. As far, that was a commitment Ms. Stilley made when she came in, and that's one of the things we stay true to. If a school says they need something, it's going to be ordered or copied for them, because teachers don't have time to stand at a copy machine for hours to make the materials. That was a commitment, and we've honored that.
And then I know, again, as we were implementing Tier 1, we did a lot of training for the teachers that we're going to be adopting that new curriculum. What about when we bring these new teachers in? Are we doing some in-services with them as well?
Yes, sir. During our new teacher orientation week, we have a core subject day, so our vendors actually come in, or our content leaders, and they do a training for new teachers, and we were actually already planning for next year. And one of the things we saw this year, and we were tickled pink, is a lot of our experienced teachers who maybe they changed grade levels, they asked us, can we come to the new teacher training and kind of get a refresher, or if it was new to them. So we were like, we're really going to capitalize this next year and open it up to our experienced teachers who maybe just want a refresher. So thank you for asking that, but yes, sir, we do that.
Dr. Vassell, I got one. Do you, again, I know Tier 1's kind of new to our system and how we're in certain subjects. Do you feel our scores are reflecting that Tier 1 curriculum, and do you feel like we're in the right path with the Tier 1, or do we might, as a school system, maybe look into maybe adding a Tier 3 to Tier 1 and make a hybrid, or do you feel our scores are reflecting that Tier 1? Correct. I know it's new, so I'm asking for somebody who might not know that data and look at that data on a daily basis.
Yeah, no.
How do you feel we're falling there?
Thank you for asking that, because one of the things, I mean, I'm transparent as the day is long. When scores come out, I want to see huge jumps like everybody else. But what I really talk to myself and the academic team about is what we see is progress. Even when we didn't have, like last year where we had 74% of the schools showed mastery growth, this year we had 32%, we didn't see any big dips. We don't see implementation dips of like -15. Like ELA is the spot where we're watching, where we saw a few dips in our upper levels. So we're saying, okay, well, already was new. We're analyzing that. But when you mentioned Tier 3, I want to point out, people talk about the tier curriculum and, oh, what do you mandate? Well, number one, the funding we get when we do our super app, if you don't put Tier 1, the state gives you no money. Mm-hmm. But also, I believe in it. What I believe is it gives us a steady curriculum that we know what our teachers have in their hands. Somebody said it best at LDOE. They said, you don't ask a doctor to go make the medicine, do the test. Like, you can't do all that. So we have this, but where we want to focus on, and we are, is the rigor of the standards. So we've got the curriculum, everybody has the scope and sequence we're supporting, but now we've got to get a little deeper, because proficiency comes with rigor of the standard. And that takes practice, that takes experience, and that's one of the areas we'll be working on.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking.
No, thank you. Like I said, I wasn't privy to the Tier 1. Like I said, I was skeptical, but I see
You
the
were
numbers.
social studies, and
I was social, so we weren't there yet. We weren't there yet.
Social studies were always last.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vassell.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item, consider committee reports. Finance and Audit Committee. Move to adopt. Whoa.
Mr. Duncan,
Second.
Whoa.
Do we have it?
Mr. Ryan Gamble is here. We are recommending an amendment to what was adopted. Since we adopted that, we've gotten 40 new buses in. And in the past, the buses would be insured for the amount that was borrowed, financed for those buses. We actually use ESSER money to pay for those buses, so we don't owe anything on the buses. But I think it's important to have coverage for those buses, because I don't want to stand here before y'all if we have 10 buses catch fire and say I don't have $4 million to replace those buses.
So is that just a change to the errors and omissions policies?
Mr. Gay.
Yeah, so that's going to be a change in the entire liability policy as a whole that we had with Berkeley,
But not the workers' comp?
not the workers' comp. No,
All
sir.
right, so let me fix myself. I'll change my motion. Move to consider action B of the committee report separately and to approve the remainder of the report.
Okay, second. Any questions, comments? Call the vote for Cindy.
Except for item D,
I think it's B.
A and C
Boy.
we're voting on.
B as in boy.
Yeah,
Yes.
We're considering B separately,
Yeah.
as in board.
Okay.
They're pulling out.
Who seconded? Voting is open.
Okay,
Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
And now we'll take up
Yes, so like Mr. McNeely said, we added 40 new buses we bought, and we actually are renting 5 other buses that Ken Mitchell that needed to be added onto the policy for the beginning of the school. With that being said, the premium, or excuse me, let me backtrack. The total insured value, what we had prior to these buses, it was 3.4 million. It increased to 8.1 million. And then the total count was 331 vehicles on our policy. It increased to 376. Now, with all that being said, I met with the transportation department today. With us bringing on 40 new buses, we will be surplusing and getting some of the buses off. So I went back to Berkeley, asked them if, once we finally decide which buses are going to get removed, if there will be a premium reduction, and they agreed that obviously we're not going to have as many buses on the road, there will be a premium reduction. So the premium increase currently goes from $825,000 to $913,000, but that number is obviously going to come back down once we remove some of the buses that are getting replaced by the new 40 buses. Have any
So
questions?
y'all's recommendation is what?
To renew with Berkeley at the $913,000, and hopefully, if we're able to remove buses and get the updated premium before the renewal date of September 7th, then that premium obviously will be shown at that time. If not, we will get an endorsement after the fact to get a return premium after that renewal date.
And that's the administration's recommendation.
The additional cost to have full coverage on those buses is about $1,550 per bus per year, which I think that's a good price to have that kind of security in case something happens.
So move to adopt the administration's recommendation as presented today on agenda item B.
okay.
Second.
Second by Mr. Toller.
There's not going to be any penalties if we pay that renewal ahead of time. Like if we pay the renewal and they take it off later, they're not going to try to charge us for those buses or for
No, I
anything.
got that in writing today from them.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Moore?
Yeah.
My question was, do we have to keep those buses on record that, that they would have to be insured if those buses are not being used? I mean, can we not? I mean, do we have to keep the buses that we're not using insured?
So I'll let
Just
Mr.
to make
Jinko,
the
if
question
we
simpler.
need, but some of the buses are going to be surplused, and we'll get a refund on those. The other buses, my understanding is we operated last year without any surplus buses that we needed to have because of how long it took to get these in. So we're going to be coming back to you, Transportation will, with a recommendation of keeping some of those buses to have as standby, backup, athletic different things that you need additional buses over than just your normal routes. I'm talking to Ms. Notriana, typically it's about 10%. You want to have a 10% fleet, I don't like the word surplus, but standby buses. So that, for our fleet, that would be about 20 buses that you would keep on standby. And you would have to keep insurance on them because they're subject to roll at any minute, moment's notice.
Any question? Call the vote. Oh, wait, Frank.
I think this one will kind of be easy. It's kind of an ignorance issue for me, but do you have like a VIN for each individual bus that you, okay, so in other words, if a 20-year-old bus burns versus a brand new one, I used burn because it happened last year, but so I guess they're insured differently? And
So the way that the school system insures buses for physical damage, the new buses will all be at the actual cost of that bus that we purchased for it.
okay,
Other buses, like a 20-year-old bus, we do not carry physical damage coverage on. We
Okay.
only carry physical damage coverage on buses that we owe money on, or that we're renting from Kid Mitchell, or Mercedes, or Enterprises, all people that we've dealt with in the past.
Okay.
We only insure those buses for either, so if we owe $20,000 on a $80,000 bus, we're only insuring it for $20,000.
okay. So what are we insuring these new ones for if they're $100,000 a piece? So how much physical damage coverage will we have with that policy you mentioned?
Now, what we're doing with the new 40 buses, so let's say a bus was $100,000, minus our $20,000 deductible, we're gonna insure it for, you're getting that $80,000.
Okay,
Right?
gotcha.
Okay. All right, call the vote.
Voting is open. Now. Recommendation.
Oh,
Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
they were here then. I was wondering too why they were here. We didn't do here, and I think she has a yellow one in her hand.
I get it.
You did? Okay. She said she had it up. Okay, okay, well, thank you, we didn't want to, okay. Okay, great. Okay, you ready? All right, item B, Policy Committee of the Whole of August 23, August 1st, 2023.
Madam President, I'd like to make it a motion. I'd like to alter the agenda to do the superintendent's report before we vote on item B, seeing as if we don't pass that item, item B is irrelevant.
We don't need a motion.
He wants to bring this one after the superintendent's report. Okay, okay. Look, let me put it over here because I don't forget it. Okay. All right, we'll come back to item B. All right,
On the next one, I need to make a motion.
okay. Board actions, consider approval to reject, that one's the one?
Yeah, so on agenda item A, I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda, which would require unanimous consent of the board. Well, so I guess the motion would first be to waive the rules so that we can add an agenda item, specifically in addition to us voting today to reject the terrorism coverage, we also need to do a separate vote to reject the uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage. So the motion would be to waive the rules so that we can add an item to the agenda.
I second that motion if you need a second.
Yes. Mr. Westmoreland. Okay, call the vote.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
So then next I would make a motion, Madam President, which I guess we can call it agenda item A1,
Okay.
which is to consider approval to reject uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage to our property liability insurance renewal policy.
Okay.
Should need a second.
We need a second.
Second.
Mr. Westmoreland.
And this again would require unanimous consent.
Okay. Call the vote, Ms. Cindy.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
Going,
Okay.
Now we can go back to A.
yeah, going back to A, I'll make the motion at this time that we approve the administration's recommendation to reject, so we approve to reject the terrorism coverage under the 2023-2024 property liability insurance renewal.
Second.
Okay. Do we need Mr. Jeff? No? Okay.
It's really expensive.
Call for the question.
Right. Okay, call the
Question.
vote.
Voting is open.
Thanks, Mr. Westmoreland. Okay.
Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
And then as to agenda item A1, would move to approve the administration's recommendation to reject uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage in the property liability insurance renewal policy.
We
Second.
did that.
No. Cindy is confused.
Could you repeat that, please, Mr. Duncan?
Motion, so same motion, well, that's it. Motion to approve the administration's recommendation to reject uninsured, underinsured insurance coverage in the, I think it's the property liability
Is it
insurance.
property?
Huh? Automobile,
That's correct, automobile policy.
Automobile policy.
okay.
So do I still need to,
Hmm?
do I still
Question
need,
on that.
do we still need that motion?
Yeah. Yeah, there were two different motions, two different rejections that we needed to vote.
I have a question on that too.
Was the first one for the terrorism? I know it's getting.
Yes.
Yeah, the first one was for the terrorism. This one
gonna
is
be
a
for
separate,
uninsured motors, underinsured motors, under
Yeah.
the auto liability policy.
yeah,
Oh.
for the auto liability policy.
I did have one question about that. So this just,
We did,
from my knowledge, this is not going to open us up to any legal issue if something happens with a bus driver that gets in a wreck or something like that, as far as like a lawsuit goes. Like if, I know for most cases with uninsured motorists, it gives us an opportunity to get like loss of income, loss of that's not going to penalize us as a school system, is it?
Well, I mean, that might be a question for the attorney. I know that in years past, we have not carried this coverage since I've been doing it. The loss of wages and all of that, if a driver gets hurt, they're going to be covered under workers' comp. So I don't know why they would have a loss of wages at that time. Normally, they might go, I haven't seen it since we've been doing this, since we haven't had a case come up. Like I said, you might want to ask the attorney that.
It's fine. I was just curious. I just want to make sure before we vote on it that
Right.
it's not, we're not opening up a can of worms too to save a nickel.
Right.
But no, I agree. Thank you.
Okay. Ready, Miss Cindy? Okay, call the vote.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, moving on to item B. Mr. Jeff McNeely, consider approval of the 2023 to 2024 annual operating budget.
Now is the appropriate time.
Now.
If Mr. Duncan is the chairman of our committee, would like to make that motion. I want to commend our staff for all the work that they've done putting this together. We have a great team upstairs working on this, and it's making my job wonderful. So,
Yes, so we'll move at this time to approve the 2023-2024 annual operating budget and to approve any, are there separate resolutions on that that we also approve? Or maybe, or just, I think we just approved the budget. Okay.
Seemed like it was.
No, okay.
I second the motion.
Mr. Westmoreland, second. Any questions? Call to vote.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, item C. Mr. McNeely, consider approval of the recommendations of the architectural services for the RFQs.
so I want to commend Mr. Valarudo. He was the chairman of this committee and got all the information together for us. As you can see, the committee appointed by Ms. Stilley was Mr. Valarudo, Mr. Moore, Mr. Toller, Ms. Stilley herself, and myself. We reviewed, and these are the scores. And the committee recommendation is for the first five, the top five there on the list, from Holly and Smith, Gasway Bankston, Glitch, Knievel Architects, Arch 7, and RCL Architecture Incorporated be approved to be part of an architecture pool for small projects where there'll be a rotation of the projects as they come forward. With approval of this, it'll give us the ability to get started on a lot of these small projects that have been waiting for us to be able to get designed.
See if somebody else wants to make a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I second.
Mr. Toller?
I can tell you that there's a lot of work that went into this and a lot of going through to get these scores. And, you know, we didn't collaborate until everybody had their scores completed. So I was happy to see that we had local businesses at the top of our list, obviously. But it's going to be nice to have a pool of architects to pull from, because a lot of these small projects, we need more than one or two companies here to get the stuff done. So,
Okay.
Miss,
Miss,
I know y'all had like everybody turned in a packet and y'all reviewed them. Can we get copies of those packets so we can just
Here you
have it
go.
Yes, ma'am.
ourselves?
you have my
You
You want
packet.
paper copies or you want PDFs?
I'm old school. I had to
I'd
print
just
all
like
my
to
stuff
look.
out.
I mean, I would just like to, I mean, we spent like months and months doing this, so I would like to look at what we accomplished
Sure,
here.
Sure.
You know?
I'll forward that to you when I sit
Okay.
down. I'll send it to the entire board.
I have a question.
okay.
Yes, sir.
Didn't originally, when we decided to do it this way a couple of months ago, y'all said y'all was gonna approve the top 3? And is there a necessity to do 5, is my question.
I will trust your memory on that. I don't remember us even saying if there was a number, but if it was top 3, it's the wishes of the board. Y'all have the final approval on this. The committee recommended the top 5.
Wasn't there a procedure packet? What does it say in it? We approved the,
There wasn't a number specified in that.
oh, that packet didn't have a number in
No,
it?
sir, it was my intent based off of the number of small projects that I see coming, that we recommend the 5.
Okay.
Because of the number of small projects.
And there's a lot, you're right. We got a lot.
All right.
Well, I'm excited because now we can actually get some of these tarps off some of these buildings that we've been waiting on.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Yes.
amongst other things, like the ESSER funds for the other major projects too.
Correct.
This also falls in at major projects, right? Or we're,
That's my question.
how's that working?
Not to
This
see
is
that
just the
made.
small projects.
This is
The
just all small,
advertisements
okay.
Yeah.
for phase 2 will go out this Thursday.
This
So we'll have
Thursday.
We'll have the advertisements for architects for those remaining 5 phase 2 projects.
Okay.
Yeah, anything over 500,000 is a separate RFQ, right?
Correct.
Thought about?
So Thursday you went
Vote.
out for bid, you said? Or, I mean, you're going out for quotes? What did you
Thursday,
say?
it will be advertised to
Advertised,
receive
okay.
RFQs on the remaining 5 phase 2 projects. And we
Okay.
hope within the next couple of weeks that we'll have the Laranja Auditorium roof and remodel as well, which is a major project from Hurricane Ida, and have that advertised as well.
Okay, good.
Okay. Mr. Jeff, you going? You may as well stay.
Oh, I mean, that's on the agenda, so you have to read that one.
Look, that's why I wanted you to stay.
We're waiting for the vote, though.
We're waiting for the vote, though.
Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Item D, Mr. Jeff McNeil.
Item D is consider approval of the resolution ordering and calling a special election to be held by the Parish School Board of Tangipahoa Parish, State of Louisiana, acting as the governing authority of Consolidated School District Number 1 of the Tangipahoa Parish, Louisiana, on Saturday, November 18th, 2023, to authorize the renewal of the levy and collection of a 15 mills 10-year ad valorem tax for the exclusive purpose of operating, maintaining, and equipping in K through 12 Hammond schools, accelerated classes, visual and performing art programs, international baccalaureate programs, Montessori education, communication magnet programs, STEM, extended day, and our other educational enhancement programs, and paying salaries and benefits of teachers and other public school personnel that are necessary to maintain and or further implement such programs, and further making application to the State Bond Commission for consent and authorization to hold the aforesaid election, and further providing for other matters in connection therewith.
Jeff McNeil.
Good.
Move to adopt the resolution.
Second.
Okay. Second by Ms. Rose. Good. Call the vote, Ms. Sid.
Voting is open.
Okay.
I do like the way Mr. McNeely emphasized the word renewal.
Yeah.
Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Now we're to the superintendent's report and our recommendations.
Yes, Madam President. Item 6A would ask the board to consider approval of the Student Code of Conduct with Tangipahoa Parish School System's Blueprint for Student Incident Response book that we shared with y'all a couple weeks ago. At the last meeting, you guys tabled it for this meeting, and we would ask the board to take administration's recommendation to approve this Student Code of Conduct.
So move.
Questions, comments?
No second.
We did. Tom did.
Tom did?
Uh-huh.
I thought Tom moved.
Oh, Tom moved.
Robin
I'll
second.
second.
Robin second. Yeah. Okay.
Voting is open.
Are you calling for discussion? No?
I did.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I'm just curious, nothing's changed in there. I'm still gonna have to say, I don't feel like it's a good idea to change this at the last second. School's already started. I was hoping that we could just add this discipline review committee rules to the ones we already have. In my opinion, we've only had the plan that we worked 2 years on in place 1 year, and I thought we had made great strides. I don't know why we're changing it again already. That's just my opinion. I was hoping we could just add your discipline review paper to the student code of conduct we already have in place.
Ms. Jinko?
Good evening, everyone. We'd just like to emphasize again the 23-24 booklet compared to the 22-23 booklet is just a more refinement of the 22-23 booklet. The biggest changes are the discipline review committee and 3 levels in 22-23, breaking it down into 4 levels for the 23-24 school system with some other interventions, some other tools in the tool belt that we're going to ask that teachers could use if they need it. Our administrators are still going to be able to remove students from the classroom if there are issues. If there, unfortunately, there was an issue at one of our schools the first day of school, the school handled it. It was an issue, whether it was step 3 or level 3 or level 4. They handled it, took care of the information, did their inquiry, did their due diligence, and made their recommendation for a change of placement.
So are we not going to put this wording that you
Oh, no, ma'am.
presented to us in
The
the
wording,
policy?
the proposed discipline review committee, we're going with the proposed part where it says the role of the discipline review committee is to make decisions on long-term exclusionary discipline recommendations made by the school and is activated anytime a long-term exclusionary discipline recommendation has been made following a level 4 infraction. The DRC is made up of a diverse panel of 3 TPSS administrators. One would be a school administrator that volunteers to sit on the committee. They will only be on the committee 1 time that year. A student services representative and a superintendent representative. By activating the DRC, TPSS seeks to make sure that processes and procedures around the hearing process will ensure all appropriate actions are taken by the school and district to ensure the student and family receive due process.
So, Mr. Jinko, is that language going in the guidebook book or in the policy?
No, so that would go in the guidebook.
Okay, so in that section that talks about the discipline review committee, so that the administration's recommendation is to adopt that student code of conduct as previously presented, but with this section being
explaining the DRC because I did not do a good enough job explaining it last time.
Okay, and you did say volunteer.
Yes, ma'am. Administrators will volunteer.
They will volunteer.
For one time on the committee.
So my question is, what if we have no volunteer?
What if we have no volunteers? Then they will be made up of the student services representative and the administrative superintendent's recommendation.
Okay.
I believe you already have
Yes,
asked.
I mean, we
Right,
have approximately 33 individuals that have volunteered.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And they're looking, if I may add, they're looking at this as a opportunity for professional development, not only for them, but to bring back to their school to say, this is what I saw in the discipline review committee. These are some things that we can do, or hey, we're already doing this, let's keep working on it.
Look, I'm a big proponent of the committee. I don't think that I argue that at all. I think the committee is needed. I think it's going to be a refresh, and I think it's going to be good for the school system. Some other things that I've voiced on my concern with this code of conduct is really a lot of the language and some things that I feel need to be cleaned up. So my only comment tonight, whether it passes or it fails, I really hope administration can maybe bring this to a committee to refine it for future updates throughout the school year. Because we know we're going to hit bumps in the road. If we know that there's some issues with the policy, maybe with wording or maybe things that might hit or miss, I just hope we're proactive to say, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and submit it to a committee, make up a committee. That way we can go ahead and start looking at this thing for future updates for 2024, 2025, and so on. So it's a longevity document, not something that we're just going to ball in the trash when we hit the first road bump.
I ask you and the other 8 board members, if you get calls related to this, please relay them to me. I need to know what the issues are so that we can solve these issues. Mr. Porter and the Student Services team, we need to know.
And just to add, we will make the commitment to, we're asking the board to approve this tonight. The 2 major shifts, as Mr. Jenko said, is the 4-level system and the discipline review committee. All the other stuff in there is really things that we've been doing in practice for the last, 4 or 5 years. But we do commit to getting a committee together to include teachers, assistant principals, a couple board members. Let's go page by page through the document and have any kind of revisions ready for like January. I think that this should be ready in January and February to roll out, not this time of year, not in the summer. It's too late. So we make that commitment to do that.
So if we were to vote on this today and it's approved, it takes effect immediately though, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I have an additional question. So we have this list of individuals at each school who work to support students' health, mental health. Are these people aware that they're going to be tasked with some of these disciplinary procedures, or is this just an example of who we can task with that?
If you could explain, those individuals will not be giving disciplinary consequences to any students.
Okay.
Those individuals are going to help. Let's say when Ron's check engine light goes on, and if I go to the SAT team, those are the groups of individuals that are going to help try to dig through to find out what the issues are and come up with some issues and some resolution to try to help. As we've all said, our teachers are the educational experts in the classroom, and as Dr. Fussell showed, we're making progress. So we want to make sure we keep them in the classroom doing what they do best and get them some help for some of the other issues outside the classroom to help those students.
Got it. So in other words, just say a student is in trouble or has done something to break a rule. They typically go see the assistant principal. And so the assistant principal would then task one of these individuals, and not a classroom instructor, to see why the check engine light is on. Is that correct?
Again, depends on what the issue is. If I am, give me a disciplinary issue.
Somebody walked out of the classroom without permission.
Walked out the classroom without permission. That assistant principal is going to take that referral. He or she is going to say, Ron, what's going on? Okay, look, here's the consequences on this step for doing that. You're going to get those consequences. If it's a day out of school, when you come back, we're going to have someone that you're going to talk to. It could be a counselor. It could be a referral to the SAT process to kind of dig into Ron's records to find out what's going on. If he's in 5th grade, did this happen 3rd, 4th, etc. That's what that process looks like.
Last question. Do you feel like anything in this code of conduct is going to make a teacher or classroom instructor's job more cumbersome or add paperwork to them or anything like that?
No, sir.
Okay.
I do not.
I have one thing to add. On the support list that you have, I mean, some of these individuals, they're primarily going to do consequences for behavior. For instance, if it's assistant principal or disciplinarian, many of them are doing the consequence part, and other people that are have access to at the school can help with some of the proactive stuff, or try to dig down to find out the why. Like, why are these behaviors happening? So they assist the disciplinarian in figuring out the bigger picture, which is why they're existing, where the disciplinarian may be the one doing the consequences in terms of for that behavior, just to clarify.
So one thing, I just want to make sure that Mr. Toller's motion is to adopt the student code of conduct with this revised language, because
Yes.
that's not the language that is on board docs yet. So that was your motion?
My motion was to adopt the administration's recommendations.
Okay. And I do want to, Mr. Jinko did meet with me about this earlier today, and I appreciated him doing that and explaining that a little bit more. And also, this list that you provided today was something that I had requested, and I appreciate that as well. The concern I have with the list is that it's, and I'm sure it'll be helpful to our school disciplinarians to have all of this and know who's out there, but the list is people who are already employed with the system, that are within the system, that already have existing jobs within the system that are very extensive and demanding. These are not new people. I also would note that on this list, just on the first page, 7 of the people are listed multiple times for all 3 of those schools. So, I mean, these people that we're talking about being available are people who are providing services system-wide. You know, what I think would be really helpful to our school level administrators are if we were able to provide them with a list of outside resources that would be available to do some of the things that are involved in this new policy. And I know, and I appreciate y'all are saying that this is stuff that we already do, and it may be things that we already hope that we would do. But I would again just refer y'all back to this inquiry section, which talks about whenever we have an incident, that part of the inquiry process that we're going to be expecting our school level administrators to do includes student interviews, family input forms, a student observation process, a teacher interview, downloading the student data, attendance data, discipline data, doing home studies. You know, these are not things that we do right now every time that we have a major incident. It may be things that we want to do or that we want to start doing, but that's a lot of work that we're going to be demanding that our school level administrators check those boxes. And I'm assuming that part of the role of the discipline review committee is going to be to ensure that every one of those boxes is checked before a child is removed to the alternative program.
And Mr. Duncan, just for clarity, it's really not intended to be a list of check mark boxes, but it could be things depending on the situation that the administrator may want to consider doing. There's some incidents that happen. We talked about this at our disciplinarians meeting last week with our assistant principals and principals, but there are some incidents that where you talk to the student. I mean, on there it says student interview. That means you say, what happened? Tell me what happened. The student tells you what happened. Then there's times when you read the form that the teacher filled out, but you need to go talk to the teacher. So you walk down the hall and, you know, you go get the teacher's, you say, you know, because sometimes the form doesn't really tell the story of what really transpired in the classroom. So you ask the teacher. I guess the word interview sounds a little formal, you know, it sounds like you're sitting across the table, you know, interviewing somebody. And then, you know, I think one thing was, you know, the parent, you know, pick up the phone and talk to the parent, you know, hey, this is what happened. Because sometimes the parent can give you a perspective or information depending on the situation that may assist you. So I think it probably sounds a little bit more formalized the way it's written there. So it's not quite, you know, that formal, and it's not intended to be, you have to do all these things in your process. It means these are things depending on the situation that you may want to consider doing in order, because really the whole goal of the inquiry process, or, you know, what we used to call when I was disciplinarian investigation, is you want to do your due diligence as an administrator to find out what really happened.
And what's going on with the child?
What really happened. And there's different perspectives on what happened. You have the teacher perspective, you have the student perspective, you have other students that maybe saw something, the parent may add something. Then you take all of that information together and you try to piece together what you believe happened. It's your due diligence. That's all we're trying to get administrators to think about. We talked about this with them when we saw them last week.
Shannon?
Okay.
One quick thing, and I support the administration's recommendation on this. Am I happy with everything about this? No. I'm still disappointed the fact, and it's not just Tangipahoa Parish, but it's nationwide, statewide, nationwide. I'm disappointed in the fact that more and more of the responsibility of disciplined children and students fall on us. We need more help, and I keep saying this, we need more and more help from the community. We need more and more help from parents. We can't do this by ourselves. We need to look at other triggers as well, because we can't solve this just by policy changes. We all understand that. There's other triggers. I firmly believe that this is one trigger that we need to have some serious discussions about in our schools. Do we need to finally be the school system that does away with this? Do we need to, there's other little triggers like that that cause problems that we have to solve through our policies, and we have a lot of well-educated people that are spending a lot of their time doing disciplinary stuff when they should be doing more instructional stuff. So am I happy with all of this and the time that it takes to make all these adjustments? No. But I'm supporting the administration's recommendations because I know the heart's in the right place. And as we go through the school year, if we see that we revert back to a time where we have a high number of fights or a high number of whatever the actions may be, then we can go back at that point and address that and change tiers, change levels, whatever we have to do to try to maintain control. Because, I'll say it again, if you have a classroom with 30 people and we have 2 people that are causing problems, we need to also care about the 28.
This is one thing. What I would like cleared up a little bit, I'm just not happy with major changes like this already in school. Like she just said, it's kind of hard. I mean, we've already got maintenance changes, technology changes, bus changes, and now we're going to change this. Our teachers, our people, our employees are just taxed to change everything they do this last month. On this thing with the level 1 incidents, if you have a disrespect or willful disobedience, how many of these is it going to take to get to, okay, I'm going to write you an apology letter? That's one of the consequences. If a kid is continually written up, how many times are they written up and they only have to write you an apology letter or stay after school for detention if they continue to disrupt your class? I mean, it's very vague to me.
And that, in a way, is intentional because that puts the onus on our administrators, our school administrators, that need to work with that teacher to find out, hey, teacher can say, Principal X, Ron has 6 referrals. And then Principal X can talk to that teacher and say, all right, you're right, something needs to be done. We're leaving it up to the school level to determine when those consequences need to be implemented for those particular behaviors.
See, can I piggyback off that real quick, Ms. Rose? My issue with that, though, is that we already have a consistency problem across the board in our parish. Some schools do it this way, others do it the other. This principal finds this to be the priority. This one does not. This lets this student get away with murder. This one does not. This one's on the football team. This one is not. I feel the way this is written, it's going to, yes, do what you're asking it to do to a degree, but it's going to cause it's not going to be consistent. It's going to be, like she said, what if little Jimmy's mom can't bring him to detention? Are we going to put the foot down and say, well, too bad. You got to come to detention. That's what I put on the paper. Or are we going to say, well, just let him go write the apology note? That's a very far in between stretch that you now have given to a disciplinarian. That's tough. I mean, what if a teacher says, well, I'm not okay with you just giving me the apology? Are we going to listen to that faculty member too?
We're going to have the same issue if I put for level 1 that disrespect is after school detention or Saturday detention. If I don't come, you're still in the same boat.
Yeah, because I mean,
See, you're still in the same boat.
How many times are you written up before you consider a level 2? I mean, it doesn't say. I mean, do you get 15 levels before you get to level 2?
Well,
That your punishment may be
No.
a little, I mean, it's not really explained in
What-
all this writing,
It-
how many times?
Okay, Trent?
Yeah, I was just gonna say I was concerned about this kind of walking back discipline, but if you look at the level 2, willful disobedience is mentioned. It says brief or low intensity failure to respond is level 1. But if you go to level 2, under willful disobedience, it says repeated documented low intensity failure to respond is a level 2 offense, which administration added could potentially lead to an in-school suspension or out-of-school suspension just for a level 2. So I think that's pretty firm. So 2 or 3 referrals for willful disobedience can.
That's a matter of a principal's opinion.
Yeah.
How many is repeated?
Well,
repeated.
yeah, well, all of it is, Rose. Look, the major thing about discipline that I consider all the time is that what we've been doing in the past hasn't worked so well. And so we need to do something different. And I think that is what the superintendent is asking us to allow her to do. And if if there's a cure for something that requires a needle, it's going to be painful to administer the cure. But you have to give it time and to allow it to be effective. I think that the policy that we're being asked to approve tonight is a good start. You know, no, it's not perfect, but you got to have expectations that it's going to work. I mean, if we don't have expectations that it's going to work, then it's going to be hard to sell that to our principals and our teachers, and probably even students. So we got to believe somewhere. We got to start out by believing that this is going to make a change.
Okay, Mr. Duncan?
Ms. Janice? And one thing we have to understand is our schools across the parish are so diverse. You're not going to get a blanket policy that's going to fit every school. And I really feel like this way the principal has the opportunity to connect with her students, and the teacher has an opportunity to connect with the students to see what is making that particular child do what they're doing. It might not work at Ponchatoula, but it may work at Independence, because we have 2 totally different sets of students there. And the population as well. I mean, y'all have, how many, 2,000 students there? We have a smaller school. So I really feel like this is going to give our teachers and our principals an opportunity to really dig to see what is causing these students to act out. And it's going to give them an opportunity to maybe save a few of them from going to task all the time.
Yeah.
And that's what we really need to concentrate on.
Okay.
Just like to add to Ms. Rose's, we're hoping with this process, the acceptance of this process is that we're not letting Ron act out 15 times before I get him or her to a counselor, to get him to talk to someone, to stop after 2 or 3 times before it gets to 15. That's what we're hoping. And, and hopefully it works. And if it doesn't, then we have the consequences that we have to follow through with.
Okay, Mr. Duncan? Well, Mr. Duncan, and then call for questions.
So Ron or Ms. Stilley, either one, maybe y'all can answer this. So the last couple of weeks in preparing for this vote, I've been trying to read up and study, and like what Mr. Moore said, every discipline policy that we adopt and every school system adopts, an argument's going to be made that what we did in the past didn't work, because the kids are always there's going to be a group of kids that are going to get in trouble. So I mean, we're always going to be looking at trying to make changes and improvements. The question is whether the types of changes and improvements we are planning to make, is there data or study or evidence that these proposed changes will make the situation better, or is there data and study and evidence that suggests that maybe it will make it worse? That would be my concern. And so the stuff that I was looking at and trying to decide which way to go, they were talking about these different types of discipline policies, and they kept putting them into different categories. One was this restorative type of discipline policy, which became a fad It looks like, I guess, maybe in 2010s, 15s, or whatever. And then there was what was, I guess, a more traditional type of policy, which they called a progressive type of discipline policy, where you had progressively more severe but specific consequences for certain types of behaviors. And of course, there were studies that went both ways to say which one was better. What I was having a hard time determining, based on the way these studies were defining a restorative versus a progressive, was where this falls. And so I don't know, what do you, have y'all looked at that? I mean, where would you say that this falls in this spectrum between?
I think we're somewhere in the middle, because we have on step 4, level 4, it is very prescriptive of what's going to happen. So that's that punitive type issues. And our level 1, specifically our level 1, I think we're trying to get more restorative. And as it moves to level 2, the consequences start amping up. So I think we would be somewhere in the middle between those two. I think that's a great analogy.
Okay.
And that makes sense to me, and because that was where I was landing
Yes.
too. And just so you know, the studies that I was reading, most of them seem to be, ever since 2019, seem to be arguing against moving towards a more restorative type discipline policy. There seems to be some studies that are saying that is making the situation worse versus better. But what you're telling me, and I kind of was coming down in the same place, that what we're looking at is something more along of a hybrid type situation.
Okay.
I would agree with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Call the question.
Okay, voting is open.
I think
Something happened. We lost connection to the server.
Excuse me?
It's nothing, it's not showing anything.
It's not, yeah.
Oh, okay, well, let me,
that means we talked too long.
Yeah. But it was good.
is it open now?
No, ma'am. It's coming on some of them.
saying?
No,
The thing is that we're never gonna be done talking about this.
yeah, you're right.
You got it, but I didn't. There it is.
Is it open now?
Yeah.
Just call and roll.
Just wanted Trent's vote.
Do you want me to call roll, Ms. Richards?
Huh? Did it?
Okay. Ms. Dominguez?
Oh, there we go.
There it is.
There it is.
Oh, there
There
we
it
go.
is.
Okay,
Already voted once, you vote again?
Yes, for Tom, but
yeah, okay.
there it is, it's up now.
Just to be sure.
So you're gonna have 18 votes.
Okay, Ms. Steely? After?
I didn't,
Mr. Duncan, did yours open?
am I the only one that had a
Yes.
vote? No. I'm sorry, I don't know why it's not open.
Voting is closed.
Gotta bring it up.
Motion passes with Ms. Dominguez, Mr. Duncan, Mr. Westmoreland, and Mr. Piazza voting no.
And I'm just like blocked out altogether.
6B, journal updates. So just briefly, I want to,
Go back to your policy.
oh,
To Mr. Joey? Yeah.
I'm trying to log
I would, we're on number 4, right? We're doing the committee. I motion to adopt the policy committee as a whole recommendations.
Ms. Richard, can you hold on 1 second? Something's, okay,
Okay.
okay. We're good.
It's working now?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I get a second? Okay. Ms. Robbins, second.
Okay.
Okay. Call the question?
Voting is open.
I think they just don't want my votes.
I know.
Is it,
It's not coming up.
okay, something's come,
Mine came up.
Mine came up.
okay.
think it's taking us one lieutenant.
Mr. Duncan,
No.
is that a vote no, or?
Yes, that's a vote no.
Okay. Voting is closed. Motion passes with Ms. Dominguez, Mr. Duncan, and Mr. Westmoreland voting no.
Okay. Ms. Steele?
Yes. Item 6B, general updates. So, for back to school. First of all, it's been a real pleasure to be able to visit the schools, and many of you have joined me along the way, and I know that some of you have said you were going to join me later in the week as well at some of the schools. And so, that, you know, as I tell people, that's the favorite part of my job, is to be in the schools and see the little children and the teachers teaching. It's just great. And so we've had a pretty good smooth start this year. Typical first day of school, first and second day issues. I would say that our probably greatest challenge has been the air conditioning in our buildings. You know, the ability, twofold. One is aging units, you know, maintenance issues regarding that. Also, just the units trying to keep up with the heat. It's been kind of hot outside. So I think that's the combination there. Our team is working on that. Terry is getting that addressed, and we'll share with you a spreadsheet either tonight or in the morning of where we are on status in terms of what's done, what's remaining. So his team has been working diligently on that piece. I checked with enrollment today to just get our numbers compared to 1 year ago today, on this day 1 year ago. It looks like we're up about 394 students from last year on this same day. So that's a good thing, because, you know, there'll be some that will drop and some will you'll add, but that's typical. And if you compare to last year at this date, you're comparing apples to apples. So I thought that was encouraging to be able to pick up more students as well. So we'll continue the visits this week, and I hope that, you know, many of you can join me along the way. And I would like to keep those going throughout the year, each 6 weeks. Maybe do a tour for the 6 weeks and invite the board to come along with me. I know that some of you are not able to go because of your work schedule and your jobs, but if you're able to at least come for an hour or so, I think it's just really, I know several of you we've debriefed, and, you know, you've shared how it has, you've learned a lot just by going on those visits. So appreciate, and also going on visits that's not in your typical area. So you may represent a certain area, but when you visit other areas of the parish, it's different. This parish is very different from the north end to the south end. City schools, rural schools, you know, country schools, small schools, large schools, they're all different. So you almost have to experience that to see it. And that's all I have, Madam President. 7A, I guess.
Okay. All right, at this time, we'll go with board members' comment. Ms. Rose?
Sure. I'm really happy about the new buildings and getting to go see everything, and they're beautiful. I think our architects and our contractors did an excellent job. I'm anxious for the furniture to get here so they can get fully, in the classrooms. We've had a few issues here and there, definitely with the air conditions, but I think some of us have even had our own houses have had air conditioning issues. Businesses have had air conditioning issues. One of my friends is actually an air conditioner person, and can't even keep up. So I do know that our department is very lean. We only have 2 people that actually work on air conditioners, and one had 18 schools. So with 18 schools and many, many air conditioners, it's kind of hard to keep them going. I don't think we had extras to fall back, to pull out of storage, to pop in. If they broke, they just had to fix them, and it was a lot of work. So I hate that, we're having issues. I do hope that we get it addressed, but by no fault of anybody, I think we just had a lot of heat days, and I feel bad for the people trying to keep those things running. So hopefully we'll get moving now on our phases in our new buildings. that need to go up and the additional repairs that are still hanging from Ida, now that we've got our architects lined out and our contractors ready to go. So thank y'all for getting that squared away.
Ready?
Ready?
Yes. Yes, I'd like to say the same as Ms. Rose. Glad we got our architects all lined up now. We can get everything going, get into the phase 2 program so we can get more schools built, 360 more this year, so every year we're going to have a lot more. Sorry I hadn't been able to make the run with you, Ms. Stilley. I do enjoy seeing the Facebook post. Looks like everybody's enjoying that, and hopefully I will be able to get to come to some later. Thank you.
Mr. Moore.
Okay, so I just want to welcome the teachers back. I thank God for you. I appreciate you. Want you to know that I know how important and how your diligence and your tolerance and your patience. But these are our children. These are your children, and it takes that. Somebody's got to do it. I'm just glad that all of our teachers are out there doing their part. I know that I'll comment as well on the air conditioning scenarios that we have going on around the parish, and I give a special accommodation to all of our teachers and principals for dealing with it in the ways that they have dealt with it, and I also compliment our facilities director for being expedient and trying to get all of these things taken care of.
I want to thank Mr. McNeely for being willing to spend 2 days with me last week going around to all of the schools, and then enjoyed spending this morning with Ms. Stilley to go visit some schools. Our schools are different throughout the parish, but and they have different needs. But what was striking to me on the visits, and I still have, I think, about 5 schools to get to this year, was really how similar the needs were. There's been a lot of work done, obviously, to make some facility improvements, but there is still a tremendous amount of work that still needs to be done, and that is universal throughout the parish. There are a lot of things, just minor orders, minor requests that have been made by our principals for small facility improvements that we still need to get to. And of course, that's on top of all of the IDA repairs that are still pending, the phase 2 projects that are still pending, the air conditioning issues. But that was universal. Some of the positive, though, from the visits was that pretty much all of the principals seemed to say that they had a much better time this year finding the people that they need to serve our students. So the work that the administration did and that was funded, I think that is paying dividends, and we'll see the fruit of that hopefully in the years to come, because we all know that although facilities are important, the most important thing we can do is get highly qualified educators serving our students and support workers serving our students, and so it seems like there was a lot of improvement there. So anyway, it was nice to do the visits, but clearly we have a lot of work ahead of us still to do.
Mr. Toler?
Good.
Trent?
I'm going to try not to be long-winded, but I think it's important that I kind of, offer this to the public and to the board members, because oftentimes I don't know how I'm going to vote when I get here, and I thought about this code of conduct a long time. I know we're not really discussing that, but I did want to mention we went to the back-to-school rally, and that young man was disrespectful. He was disobedient. He disrupted the class. And that teacher used an intervention as opposed to telling him, get out of my room. And we had 3,000 people there watching this, and I think that was a good example of how this code of conduct may be able to be employed in our system. And so, again, I feel like I'm a firm disciplinarian. When I ran a business, I was firm, and I didn't put up with a lot of stuff. But what we've done in the past doesn't seem like it's worked very well. So I think trying something new is a good thing. So I just wanted to kind of explain myself on that. Otherwise, one more personal experience. My son does not like school, but has come home and raved about Ponchatoula High. So that's a A+ for everybody involved with that. And I think that's all I got. So very good.
I have toured some schools with Miss Stilley, and I have to say, we have a gym here in Tangipahoa Parish with our college and career pathway program. Y'all, that is going to be amazing. Some of the things they're offering to these students, and to walk into a classroom and you see Ponchatoula students, and you see Hammond High students, and La Ronja students, and Sumner students, all sitting in the same classroom and excited to be there to learn something, because they know they're going to take that knowledge and they can have a job when they leave that school. It's just amazing. Ms. Gatos is doing such a great job keeping everything going over there, and I am so excited that it landed in my district in Independence, because it's just a wonderful thing to see. Hats off to Brunt Construction for their amazing facility that they did for us there. We went into a lot of the schools today, and no one knew that we were coming. No one knows when we walk into the class or into the front office, so they're not prepared for it. And everything we saw there was respect that we always push for, and compassion. You see people opening doors, yes ma'am. Kids were being quiet in their classrooms, nobody running up and down the hallways. So it's very encouraging. This is early on, this is the beginning of school, and they could be acting crazy, but they're all doing great things already, and the teachers are really enjoying it, and our custodians are doing a great job going back and forth and making sure things are picked up. So hats off to all of our employees, not just our teachers, but to all of our employees for making everything work so well, getting it going the first week of school.
Mr. Joy?
All right, let me take a breath so I can get ready for this one. First off, welcome back, teachers, staff. I want to say it's been a very good start. I mean, we've had some hiccups here and there, but as far as the last few years, this has been a cakewalk compared to some of the ones that we've seen. For our parents and teachers and students, as we transition these next few weeks, we know the honeymoon stage is about to end. We know it's coming. Just be patient and be kind to each other. To your students, to your faculty, for parents on Facebook. Understand these are human beings you're talking about, and they're transitioning just like you are. As Robin said, I got to go on some of the tours as well. Every time I stepped into a school, I was amazed even more. And one of the most popular phrases that came to my mind was this: don't judge us on strictly our failures, but take into account what we do and our progress. I went to one of the oldest schools in our parish, Woodland Park, and was amazed with what I saw as far as the cleanliness, the attitude, the respect from the student and the teacher. It was amazing to see the oldest school in the district functioning like that. And that just goes to tell what kind of leaders we have in our parish. Some of the classrooms that I saw from teachers that literally spent their stipend money on their class, not on a vacation or their kids, on their classroom, to get better for their students. We have an amazing group of individuals across this parish, some amazing facilities. I am very proud of the progress that we have and that we have made, and look forward to seeing these rest of these classrooms on these tours. And last but not least, I want to definitely thank the maintenance department. I know we've had some AC problems. I've gotten phone call after phone call, and we are addressing these. So for my teachers that may still have classrooms with no AC, please make sure you're telling your administrators, so that way we can update our list here at the maintenance office for Mr. Terry, because his team has been working around the clock trying to get these things fixed with outside contractors and with our own guys. So again, thank you so much. And though we may disagree on this board, and we may disagree with a parent or a teacher or a student, my final thing is, guys, we are a team. We all want what's best for our students, our staff, and our parents and our communities. across this board and across this parish. We are a team, and I can't wait to see how we can elevate our impact as a team
All right.
for 2023 to 24.
Ms. Staley?
Well, I want to say a special thanks to our bus drivers because they're driving these buses in the heat, and it's hot, and some of them have long routes, and so they're just amazing. That's all I can say. And you know, we have received some of the air-conditioned buses that we ordered, and we're beginning to, you know, our bus driver advisory has told us multiple times that they believe they should go to the drivers that have the longest route and work down the list. So that's what we're doing. So we have a list of bus drivers with their route length beside it, and we're working down the list, and those buses will be going out. They're getting the GPS and cameras put on there, and they should be pushing out like tomorrow. So you'll see some shining new buses with air condition, and it's our commitment to continue to order buses with air condition, because in Louisiana in this day and time, you've got to have air conditioning on a bus. So thank you.
Madam President, on the litigation section, I think we can pull agenda item 8C. I don't think we need to, is that correct, Mr. Meany? Okay. So at this time, we'd move to enter into executive session to consider the matter of Alexis Brooke versus Tangipahoa Parish School System and the possible litigation against social media companies.
Okay.